Today, we're joined by UK singer-songwriter Billy Lariffe. You may know him as the former frontman of 2 Weeks in Nashville, and now he's stepping into the spotlight with his debut solo single, Beautiful. We'll dive into his journey from sold-out venues to his bold new solo chapter. Let's get into the show. This program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Well, welcome into another exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is Billy Lariffe. Welcome to the show, Billy.
Hello there. Thank you so much for having me.
I gotta know, is Lariffe a stage name or were you born with it?
No, that is a stage name, unfortunately.
I was gonna say, if it wasn't, you were born to do exactly what you were doing anyway.
Yeah, I had to live up to my name. If not.
That's awesome, man. Well, I know you're all the way. Good afternoon to you. We work with one of our producers is out in the UK, who I'm going to connect you with as well. Our buddy Ross has the Freshest Sounds podcast. Shout out to him. And he would love to talk with you and get some of your music on there. But I want to give you an opportunity to kind of give us a little bit of your backstory, a little bit about 2 Weeks in Nashville, and then obviously talking about your new record that you got coming out, man. So the floor is yours. Let's hear the story of Billy Lariffe.
Yeah, so I grew up in the sticks, the countryside in the UK, just south of London, and my musical journey started from a very young age. My family were all kind of very musical. My grandparents used to sing in choirs and all sorts growing up, and I suppose it rubbed off onto me and my siblings, my brother and sister, and all took a liking to performing and getting comfortable with kind of the stage, I suppose. Although we were just dancing around the kitchen in our house growing up, singing together, and then from there it kind of really grew into this like burning passion. So I started on drums at school from like the age of like 6, I think, and then progressed to me starting a band at school and being the drummer of that band. And then as people grew up and went separate ways, I was like, I wanted to keep the band going, and I thought, do you know what, I could actually front this thing and try and pull off being the front man and try singing. So I started doing that from the age of 10, and then I was like, I need to accompany myself. So I learned guitar, and it just went from there, and it just really snowballed. And there was a period when I was doing some kind of more higher level like exams at school, and I didn't give them any time of day and just focused on my music. And then went to a music college, like a music institute, from the age of 16 to 18, and did a diploma and then a degree in music performance, in vocals and songwriting and artist development, and met the fellow bandmates at that uni, at that college that turned into 2 Weeks in Nashville. So yeah, it's been a wild journey, just meeting and working with lots of great, passionate, like-minded people, and it's now led me to a place where I've been in this band 2 Weeks in Nashville for 6 years now. We were living together until the end of last year, and this year was like the first chance we've all had to take a step back, evaluate what we've achieved, what we could do better, and it's left me with this kind of burning desire to try something solo. So I've already released 2 solo singles, and I've got lots more on the way.
That's awesome, man. So many parallels between your early days and mine. My dad plays guitar. My uncle plays guitar. Grandma always had sheet music out during Christmas time. She played the accordion. So I have fond memories of being a singer at a very early age, right? And performing with the whole family, just in the living room at Grandma's house during Christmas. But it was very natural for me to see my family performing around the campfire, or, and when we moved to South Dakota, we lived in a tent for 3 months. So the
Wow.
guitar was our entertainment, right?
Yeah.
So I think in many ways that kind of informed who I became in my later life. I also started on the drums and concert band, maybe
Wow.
11, 12 years old, and then progressed to the bass for jazz band by the time I was 13. And then after a year on the bass, it was like, well, I'm a singer and I'm writing, and I really should be playing the guitar. And then got a guitar, maybe 14 years old. And then it was kind of over from there. And not that I haven't played and dabbled in other instruments, that it was just, no, this is what I do. And I've always just kind of been a busking performer, and then graduating into booking gigs and doing all of those things. Never had a formal education in it, which I'm starting to realize now as I interview more people that have been to music school, that it is the learning of the craft, whether you're in performance or production, but it's a networking opportunity to be with other like-minded individuals that want to do music as a career. And that might be the most important part of going to a school like that and having that time in that is the network. Would you agree with that statement, or am I a little off base there?
Oh yeah, 110%. I agree with that. Very much kind of who and just meeting amazing people that inspire.
Because I feel like with YouTube, we can learn the things, right? Like you can learn how to produce music or learn how to perform and play music, but you can't necessarily become best friends with 4 other guys, right? And be like, oh, this is what we're going to do. And really the birth of that band is at the school then.
Yeah. And I definitely agree. And I believe that the sum of everyone's parts together is better than just you on your own kind of thing, right? And it's especially when you look at songwriting. And I think that bringing in those elements and approaches, like, oh, you write music like that, I haven't thought about doing it that way. And that's the way I love doing it. So I'm I feel very grateful for the journey that I've been on, and having not necessarily been to music college to really, like, I think there's a sense of honing your craft, but in terms of like my vocals, they came on tenfold when I was studying my voice and how that works and my breathing techniques. So I was very, very pleased for that. But in terms of the songwriting artist development course I did, I definitely just learned more off fellow musicians than I did from the lecturers per se.
Well, and then how good it is for your mental health to be surrounded by other people that are doing the same things that you want to do, rather than living, as we all do as musicians and songwriters, with people who don't play or have that passion for performing, that just don't understand it. And I think it tends to be a very negative space, that it's like, oh, well, you better get a real job, right? Or you better do this. And you're always kind of getting a negative feedback. Oh, you're great, but what do you do, to make money, when you're surrounded by those people and you're all being exposed to the industry, that you're seeing the ways that there are to make money in the music industry and in entertainment, besides just performing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I agree. And it was very much like when I was in those 3 years studying music, I was doing so much more outside of the college, going to watch my friends playing shows, like kind of being an understudy to various producers, and just really like trying to get my hands dirty and learn on the job, so that I was ready to kind of spread my wings when leaving.
So traveling back and forth from the UK to the States, to Nashville to actually perform, that's a different beast all on its own. Did you guys have the name before starting to make the travels, or did the name evolve from the 2 weeks that you were spending in Nashville?
No, the name evolved from spending 2 weeks there. We went as a different band, and we were in and out of some amazing studios, meeting some great people. We came and it just opened our eyes to America, and the scale of the country is just incredible. And we were blown away by it, and everyone was so friendly, and it felt like this real positive energy that we hadn't had for a long time in the UK. And we hadn't had for a long time in the UK. And so it just, we couldn't be the same band and couldn't continue on as the same as before. So we had to change the name, and we put our heads around the table. And I think it was the bassist's sister at the time that threw the name into the pile of being like, she was like, how long were you in Nashville for? We were like 2 weeks, and she was like, there you go, 2 weeks in Nashville. And then 2 months later, we realized that it abbreviates to twin. So that was perfect, the TWIN.
Awesome.
That became we then had like some bespoke lights made for our live shows. So they travel around with us when we play shows.
Yeah, incredible. So what is your following like back home after, do people feel like they're getting a taste of, is it just the name, or are you playing kind of country-ish music and exposing people to that Nashville sound, or is it kind of in name only that you're representative of that in the UK?
For us, I think it's we've got some country records that we are working on, but it came first. Just it worked its way into the lyrics. This like positive energy, and so the lyrics, particularly on our first record, super uplifting and just all about our experience going to America, and then the whole like grand kind of performance in our live shows and just full of energy. And I feel like that's another thing we picked up from just spending a couple of weeks in Nashville. And that's the way it's kind of transpired into our sound. But since experiencing Nashville, we really got into our country music. This was like in 2018. And since then, in the last 2 years, country's just had like an insane kind of resurgence in the UK. And it's just really come over. And, the big stars like Morgan Wallen playing sold out stadium shows in the UK, which was unheard of and never would have happened. I
don't think it's ever happened up to that. I mean, even, I don't recall anything, but it just wasn't an accepted really form of American music there. I know a lot of it has bled over, obviously rock and roll in the 60s, and there was a lot of crossover UK bands coming to the States, vice versa. Obviously some of the best rock and roll bands of all time, Led Zeppelin at the top of that heap, right? The Rolling Stones and the Beatles, obviously. But you don't have a lot of bands that necessarily cross over, especially in the country era, but music has changed, has it not?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Kind of, you were getting glimpses of country and like the big American pop records that were finally crossing over to the UK, like 4 years ago. But then it's like now the country stuff has really taken off here and people are loving it. And I think it's just that like real feel good, just puts you in a good mood and makes you want to hang out with your mates and listen to music in the sun in the summer. It's just, I love it. I think it's great.
Besides the vastness of the American countryside, what are some of the big differences between like the music scenes? What's the biggest differences? And Nashville is an anomaly to itself in the States, but what's your music scene like at home in the UK or around playing in London, which I'm assuming that's kind of where most of the gigs are at? And playing and the experiences you've had in Nashville, and what are some similarities, right? What are some similarities and differences between the two?
I think, so you in the UK, they kind of, there's like a north, middle, and south, and the northerns, the best places we played in the UK are in the north of the UK, and Manchester and Leeds, and Liverpool. Where the Beatles were from. We just found that crowds up there just are there from the beginning of the night to the end of the night. And, as soon as they've bought their ticket, that is them. They're not going anywhere else. Whilst in London, it tends to be, they'll get their ticket, maybe they'll show up, or they'll turn up. They will miss the support act, which in a lot of circumstances we're the support. And then they will come in for the act that they want to see, that they've paid for seeing, I suppose. And so I don't like that side of the London shows. I find the audience can be a bit cold, whilst up in the north of the UK, it's much like a warmer kind of atmosphere and vibe, and you just have some great chats with everyone after the show in the crowds. And I suppose that's the parallel I would make to Nashville. I mean, I can't speak for, I've been to a couple of other cities in the US, but actually music wise, only really Nashville. And I think that the crowds are very passionate about music there and are listening, and are very approachable after when you come off stage. So I'd say that was the similarity. I would say as a thing that's not so great is just, I suppose, the expense of going to a show in London. It is expensive. Tickets are more than they should be, but they have to be. They have to be high price. And so it is hard to kind of market it to your fan base and know that you're going to be able to sell enough tickets to break even on a show. Yeah, and that's the tough side.
So in America, and especially because we have a lot of what we call dive bars, right? A lot of places that have music, and how they pay their performers differs from, area to area. In South Dakota, we get paid very well guaranteed performance fees, right? When I go out and play solo shows, I get anywhere from $500 to full band shows of $1,500 US, right? To go and perform. Now, people in Nashville don't get that. They're getting to maybe play for tips or to do those things. So there's differences between the scenes of the United States, right? Different areas are different. I play up in the Minneapolis area, and it's kind of half and half there, where it's like you can get a small guarantee and then a door, where in Nashville, you're getting a straight door deal. You have to sell tickets to your shows, or if you're playing for free and they're not charging a cover, you're playing just for the tip jar at the end of the night. So there's a lot of differences between our music scenes in the States. What I'm hearing from you, though, is that the Northern, the Manchester, the Leeds crowds, it seems like they would be a lot more what we would call blue collar, right? That they are the workers and they are invested in that night. It's a considerable chunk of their income for the week to buy a concert ticket to come out. And when they come out, they're going to be a more raucous, rowdy crowd at that. And that's what we have out here in the Midwest. And I would consider Nashville to have much more of a Midwest flavor than even the South, right? The South, Atlanta, Miami, and some of these areas, Houston, right? And I feel like Nashville is really representative of Midwest values and what we consider that. What you see in London is probably more akin to how a crowd behaves in Los Angeles or in New York City, right? So there's a lot of similarities, I think, between the scenes. You're just so condensed. It's a small island, right? Like how far are you in the south of London, you say, is where you grew up? Is that where you're living now as well?
Yeah, so I'm in like an hour south of London.
So how long does it take you then to get up to like Manchester or some of these other gigs?
That's about a 5-hour drive to get to Manchester.
Okay, that's how far I drove yesterday to get home from the other side of South Dakota.
Wow, see, it's just insane. Like that for us is like we're not doing that. We're not doing that often. Yeah, you did. That is amazing. Like we would like. Yeah, I need a holiday after doing that. But you guys just do that in your sleep. It's just easy.
Well, yeah, hopefully I'm not sleeping, right? And I honestly, I drove out on Sunday. I drove out there Sunday, drove home on Monday, and put a ton of miles on. For me to get to a town of a couple 100,000 people, Billy, it takes me an hour and a half to get there. Right. I live in a town of 1,000 people. When I say the sticks and the countryside, we are out here. It's nothing but cornfields to the next town. And the next town's only a few hundred. And the next town over is maybe 10, 15,000. Right. Like that's where the Walmart is, and, so there's a lot of space out here. And that's why it was so necessary for us to start what we started here so that we can talk to, our artists in this area to give them a platform to come and share their stuff. But we realize that it's not just an anomaly to our small town area. You can be just as unseen, even if you live an hour south of one of the largest metropolitan areas in the world, and to feel that kind of isolation. What are you guys doing to really grow your fan base? Are you still coming over and visiting the States and visiting here and playing shows while maintaining and trying to build a local following in the UK?
No, we haven't really been back to Nashville music wise since 2019, actually. So it's been a while. So we recorded 2 albums over various periods, over various trips in 2018, 2019. And then we've just been gigging the UK circuit. We've done a couple of European shows, but very much just UK festivals, trying to grow our local and like country following from where we are. So and social media is really where we're going more instead of playing live shows this year, particularly.
Well, there's just less expense involved, right?
Yeah.
You can grow a fan base from our social media platforms. And obviously we know a lot. Our channel just passed 1,000 uploads and a 250,000 views on YouTube, really since the month of March that's happened for us. But it's just been purely in volume. Right. We put out 5 to 10 episodes a week on our network, and we're driving all of that into one YouTube page. So we're capitalizing on a lot of people and a lot of activity to get those kind of numbers. It's hard for a band to drive that kind of viewership just on their own. There's only so much content to make around one song or one album or one thing. Have you guys ever considered, obviously you're appearing on this podcast, but having a podcast of your own to try and develop and deliver more content to your existing fan base and using that to drive new listeners and viewers?
Yeah, podcast is a very good idea to do. We've definitely thought about that. I think I might start one solo, and maybe with another musician in the industry, and start interviewing like-minded musicians that we've met along our journey. And I think
when you're ready to do that, Billy, we'd like to help you as much as we can. I said, my buddy Ross, Freshest Sounds podcast, he'd love to have you on his, but we're always looking to grow that base. I would love to have more of a foothold with the scene projects over there in the UK, and then expanding into Europe and continue growing our brand. We kind of are becoming a force inside of the entire Midwestern region, because there's just not enough people that are willing to put their time into supporting the other people inside of the scene. So you can always use more of it. I think you'd be a great host. You got the gift of gab. You're very well, educated in music, but in life experience. I mean, there's not a lot of people, I would say, even especially fewer in the music business out there that have been to the States and have experienced a huge music industry hub like Nashville, and have toured around even in your area. You think that's fair to say?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, and I definitely love these types of conversations, and there's always something to learn and something new to discover. So yeah, I definitely need to push that forward. I'll definitely be speaking to you about that.
No, we're going to get you going. And, because I think you're a success story, right? I think people need to hear that from you of like, hey, we were a little UK band that, you paid your own way. It's not like somebody paid you a bunch of money to go to Nashville. I'm sure you guys had an exorbitant investment in that, but you did it. And if you can do it, other people can do that. And with the rise of country music, not just in the world and in the Americas, but in the UK now, that you can be kind of a tip of the spear to inviting other people to kind of take up this art form and to kind of show them the way. So anything we can do to get more people started in music and to get more people chasing their passion, I mean, that's what I'm all about. And I feel like you would get behind that 100% as well.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah. Our Nashville story was funny because I was doing a songwriting camp in London, for writing for some other artists, under a publishing company. And one of the other writers, we were put in a room together, a guy called Alan McKendry Palmer, who's based in Nashville just off Music Row. And we wrote a country song together. And he just blew my mind I'd never written with an American writer before, or a country song, I think. And I was 17, 18, and he just wrote the lyrics in a second, and I was like blown away. And he was like, right, your band, because we were performing later on in that week on the writing camp. So he was like, after seeing the band, he was like, right, you guys are going to come to Nashville. You're going to stay at my house. I've got some amazing studios and writers to hook you up with. And our journey began there. So yeah, it's amazing. I think an important thing to do is getting yourself out there and meeting new people.
Yeah. And how we do that now is with our podcast. So if that's your passion, you're going to do a great job. And if you need any help along the way, man, we would love to have you. You got the new solo stuff out. Let's talk about that. What is it? Is it kind of country-ish music, or what's the sound?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's country, the solo stuff. It's I've got a real love for pop music in general, and I think I've over the last few years writing for other pop artists. I just wanted to kind of scratch that itch myself and have my own voice on some pop records. And so, yeah, this kind of blends my love of artists in that indie pop world. And so I'm a guitarist when I write music, but in these tracks, I'm kind of turning these guitars into synths, and trying to do as much of it as I can myself. I've been co-producing it with a producer from Hungary who's a hip hop producer, and he's kind of really put like the finishing touches and the ice on the cake, so to speak, on these songs. So it's been a fun project to do.
Yeah, and talk about the differences between working with your band, which I feel like you kind of came up doing that, right? That was the early part of your career, coming up, creating music with other people. How is it different now, having kind of all the onus on you to create the whole thing, right?
Yeah, it's funny having kind of the buck stops with me. Like if something isn't going as I want it to, then it all lies with me. And it's been funny playing shows on my own, because I'm the only one to blame if something goes wrong. But I quite like the pressure, and I quite enjoy the quick in and out setups. It's cheaper to run, and you don't have 3 other opinions or more than that from times on various parts or the songs themselves. So I'm enjoying that kind of freedom.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot more of that freedom, but also there's a lot more of the pressure that you kind of talked about too, right? Where it's like, it's all on me. If it sucks, it's my fault. I can't look at the bass player, and turn around and be like, you did that, right? And I've played all these roles in different bands over the years too, where it's like, oh no, I was the problem. But a lot of what I do is solo shows, and even when I throw the band together, it's not necessarily a set list of the band members. The band members is this massive pool of musicians that have been in my life for the last 2 decades that I kind of am like, hey, are you available? Well, come on, nice. I got these couple of shows, or I have this one-off show. And it's just kind of, it's worked easier for me. But I'm always jealous of people that have been able to kind of have that band relationship. It gets harder. And especially as you get older, I'm 39. I have a family and a wife of my own. And once you're in that band together, now you're kind of married to their wives and kids and their situations, and just gets really hard to book, especially when you talk about the travel necessary to play out here, right? I kind of reference me being in the middle of the nowhere. There's not players in my town, right? I am one of a few musicians, period. I'm one of the only working musicians here. And so everyone has to travel just, over a half an hour just to get to a rehearsal, right? And then everybody has to travel hours to get to gigs. And it just became more hassle than it was ever worth. And even though you're getting paid a lot more than some people would, our expenses just in fuel to get there, pulling the trailer and everything, got to be more. So I've come to appreciate the solo shows a lot more, and the connection that I'm able to have with people in that too, because it's just me. I don't have anyone else to talk to, so I have to be engaging with the crowd.
Yeah, and do you run like tracks for your solo shows?
Nope. I just me and an acoustic guitar. I don't do any kind of tracks or anything like that. No backing stuff, and it's just how, and like I said, those early days of playing around the campfires, right? Because not only did I experience that with my dad playing around the campfire as a small child while we were living in a tent for 3 months while we built our house in the middle of the woods, right? But it was after that. It was parties. We didn't necessarily have a lot of house parties. We had outdoor bonfire parties. And that was the entertainment. You don't want to kill the truck battery when you're 30 minutes out in the middle of the woods, right? Yeah. So you're like, hey, who's got the guitars? And that's just a very Midwestern kind of country boy thing that I was very blessed to grow up into, and to have that confidence, because I took that to the streets of Venice Beach, where I was busking and making several $100s a day doing it, because I had the experience out there. I knew that I had to be louder and I had to be engaging with people, and I couldn't just sit there and be singer-songwriter on a park bench. No, I'm here. This is the show. I don't care that I'm on the street with 1,000 other vendors and there's 1 million people tolling up and down the beach. That does not matter to me. This is my corner of the world, and I am going to make it everything that I can make it. And if that means playing my guitar and singing at the top of my lungs, well, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Yeah. I love that.
It was a cool time of my life, man. And I've turned that into a 25-year, music career at this point. And now getting to turn it around and support other musicians around the world now has been so awesome. So I want to thank you for taking some time with me today, Billy. It was a pleasure to meet you. Go ahead and plug everything one more time. Let us know where people can find your stuff, and I'll let you get out of here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. So I'm Billy Lariffe. You can find my music on Spotify, Apple Music, just Billy Lariffe, and on Instagram, follow me there, and TikTok for my updates and posts about my music.
Awesome. Well, Billy, thanks for taking some time today, and thanks for being part of the scene.
Thank you so much. Yeah, speak soon. Take care.